Chapter 3.
The Moon. Learning objectives, atmospheric conditions on the Moon, tides, eclipse, artificial satellites. The Moon is a natural satellite of the Earth. It has no light of its own. It is the second brightest heavenly body in the sky. It shines because it reflects the sunlight falling on its surface. It was only after man landed on the Moon that we came to know much more about it. It is only 3,84,400 kilometers away from the Earth. As seen from the Earth, the shape of the Moon appears to change as it revolves around the Earth. The changing shapes of the Moon are called the phases of the Moon. Atmospheric conditions on the Moon. There is no life on the Moon. It does not have any water and its surface is covered with a layer of dust. It has mountains and huge round pits called craters on its surface. There is no atmosphere surrounding the Moon, so there is no wind, no cloud and no rain. Compared to the Earth, the Moon is extremely hot during the day and freezing cold at night. Why do you think this happens? Although the Earth and the Moon both receive heat from the Sun, the atmosphere surrounding the Earth absorbs only a part of this heat. Hence, it does not become too hot during the day on the Earth. But on the Moon, as there is no atmosphere, it becomes boiling hot during the day. The atmosphere surrounding the Earth retains some of the heat at night. Hence, it does not become very cold at night on the Earth, as there is no atmosphere on the Moon. The heat from the Sun is not retained, so it is freezing cold at night. Tides. The Sun, Moon and the Earth are held together by forces of attraction. The closer the two bodies are, the greater is the force of gravity between them. The Moon's gravity is only 1/6 as strong as the Earth's gravity. As the Moon revolves around the Earth, its gravity acts on the Earth, pulling both the solid parts of the Earth and also its water. But the pull on the water is greater than on the solid Earth. Tides are regular rise and fall of the water of the sea. The water in the sea facing the Moon is pulled upwards and the sea level rises. This is called high tide. As the Earth is moving, so another high tide occurs on the other side of the Earth. Between two high tides, water level falls. This is known as low tide. Every day there are two high tides and two low tides. The sea is constantly moving from a high tide to a low tide and then again to a high tide. The highest tides occur at the time of the new moon and full moon. Movements of the moon. You know that the Earth revolves around the Sun. In the same way, the moon revolves around the Earth. We always see the same side of the moon. The moon rotates on its axis while orbiting the Earth. Since it revolves and rotates at the same speed, it's just one rotation on its axis for each revolution it makes around the Earth. The Moon takes 29.5 days to complete one revolution. Eclipses. Movements of the Earth and the Moon cause eclipse. As you know, when an object blocks the path of light, a dark region called a shadow is caused on the side opposite to the light. This dark region is called a shadow. The Earth and the Moon do not have light of their own. They reflect the light of the Sun. So, the Earth and the Moon also cast shadows in space when sunlight falls on them. These shadows are called eclipses. Eclipses are caused when the Moon and the Earth are in a direct line with the Sun. There are two types of eclipses, solar eclipse and lunar eclipse. Solar eclipse. When the moon while going around the earth comes between the earth and the sun and are in a direct line, the moon casts its shadow on the earth, and people in certain parts of the earth cannot see the sun at all or see it only partially. In this way, a solar eclipse is called. If the sun cannot be seen at all, it is called a total solar eclipse. If only a part of it is seen, then it is called partial solar eclipse. As the shadow of the earth is much smaller than the sun sometimes, almost the entire sun's surface except a bright ring around it remains covered. It is called an annular ring. However, as the moon continues to move in its orbit, the eclipse ends. A solar eclipse does not last for more than a few minutes. It occurs only on some new moon days. Never watch a solar eclipse directly or even through sunglasses. The light from the sun is very strong and can damage your eyes permanently. Lunar eclipse. If the sun, the earth and the moon are in the same straight line on a full moon day, another type of eclipse is caused when the earth comes in between the sun and the moon. The shadow of the earth falls on the moon. We then have lunar eclipse. If the shadow of the earth covers the moon completely, there is a total lunar eclipse. When it covers the moon only partially, we have a partial lunar eclipse. It is safe to watch a lunar eclipse with the naked eyes. A lunar eclipse lasts only for a short time, from a few minutes to a few hours. Once the moon moves out of the shadow of the earth, it starts receiving sunlight and can be seen once again. Also remember that a lunar eclipse does not occur on every full moon night. It only occurs when the earth and the moon are in a direct line with the sun. Artificial satellites. Although the earth has its own natural satellite, it is of little use to us. Now, man has succeeded in placing artificial satellites in the space. These satellites are sent up in rockets. They either revolve around the earth or are placed at a fixed position above the earth. Sputnik 1 was the world's first artificial satellite. It was launched on 4 October 1957 by the Russians. It orbited the earth for 6 months. India launched its first satellite named Aryabhat. Other Indian satellites include Rohini, Apple, INSAT, GS-86A, etc. Types of satellites. Weather satellites are used to study the atmospheric conditions from which weather forecasts are made. They send information and pictures of storms, cyclones, ocean, currents and clouds. These are useful for fishermen and farmers. METSAT and OceanSat are weather satellites. Some satellites are used to photograph the earth and natural resources. Remote sensing satellites take Earth's photograph to study the features of the earth. The scientific research satellites gather data for scientific analysis. Some gather information about the stars, planets, Earth and its atmosphere. Rohini satellite is one of them. Communication satellites serve as relay stations, receiving radio signals from one location and transmitting them to another. A communication satellite can relay several television programs and many thousands of telephone calls at once. For example, Apple and INSAT satellites. Keywords. Satellite, a relatively small body which orbits a planet. Eclipses, the phenomenon of forming shadows due to the movements of the earth and the moon. Tide, the alternate rise and fall of the level of seas, rivers, etc. because of the gravitational pull of the sun and the moon. Looking back, moon is a natural satellite on the earth. It has no light of its own. It reflects the light of the sun. The different shapes of the moon as seen from the earth are called phases of the moon. Tides are caused by the gravitational pull of the moon. Shadows cast by the earth or the moon are called eclipses. A solar eclipse occurs when the shadow of the moon falls on the earth. A lunar eclipse is formed when the shadow of the earth is formed on the moon. Man has designed and launched many artificial satellites into space. These are used for communications, weather forecasting, and other